My name is Bob Wilton. I'm a journalist. I've been investigating a story about a classified government program. So what you're saying is that you were a psychic spy?
A Jedi warrior.
The man who stared ghosts while touching themselves. No, it's not that. This is a movie that's based on a novel I never heard of.
Really?
Well, it's not a novel. It's a book.
It's a book, yeah.
It's one of those nonfiction books that you may have heard of, where the stories are actually true or based
books
on truth.
It's still a fucking book, right?
But not a novel. A novel is specific.
Let's get to the bottom of this. Is this based on what's supposed to be a true story?
They say yes, and when you look at this, you can tell it's a lot of stuff is they've taken liberties with.
Because it's I mean, from the trailer I've seen, it reminds me so much of Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, where it's based on what's supposed to be a true story, but probably isn't.
Well, you know what? That's a perfect
and George Clooney's in it.
That's a perfect comparison because you can tell that a lot of this stuff is probably based on truth somewhere, but it's been greatly exaggerated. Yeah. Ewan McGregor plays this journalist, Bob Wilton. He writes for a small newspaper. When his wife, I'm not his wife, but his girlfriend leaves him for his editor, he decides to just go to Iraq seeking like a really good story. And that's when he runs into George Clooney's character. After having and when he was a journalist at the time, he interviewed somebody,
Stephen Root,
who told him about a special section of the government that was experimenting with psyops.
Psychic warfare.
Psychic warfare.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I know a guy in psyops in Iraq, and it's nothing to do with psychic power.
Well, no, and to be fair, it comes back around to that at some point in the film. But he is a psychic warrior.
Yeah.
As he describes himself, a Jedi warrior, which I think is the only reason Ewan McGregor is in this film. Was to get mileage out of that joke.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah, exactly. They do. And after talking to the Stephen Root character, which he explains things like we're able to travel to other worlds with our minds without ever leaving our bodies in the place where it is, or we're able to like kill people with our minds, just make hamsters drop.
Hamsters, we can people,
or we can walk through walls. And that's what the title refers to, because these so-called government-trained Jedi warriors are so powerful that they can kill a goat just by looking at it long enough. Ewan McGregor is fascinated by this. It just so happens by coincidence, when he's in Iraq, he runs into a guy named Lynn Cassidy, who's played by George Clooney. And this guy was a part of that program.
And acknowledged by Stephen Root's character as being, the golden boy of that program, the most talented psychic warrior he had ever seen.
Yeah, and from that point on, Ewan McGregor is like, I got to follow you. I have to get this story. Whatever it takes to get this story, I got to let the world know. And as you saw from the trailer, they just go into a bunch of wacky adventures after that. It
doesn't take long for Ewan McGregor to become just totally exhausted with, his bullshit. Because, quite frankly, it's all based on perception. And the movie doesn't make a lot of bones about that early on.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, come on. This guy is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Choke me.
I don't want to.
Choke me. What am I going to do?
I don't know. There's too many sharp edges.
It's okay. You can attack me.
What's with the quotation fingers? It's like saying I'm only capable of ironic attacking or something.
Choke me.
Well, if I choose to choke you, what are you going to do?
I'm going to interrupt your thought pattern. See, I barely moved. Physics-wise, not much going on here. It's the psychic energy that's important. You okay?
Oh, sharp edges.
Yeah. You felt fear, though, in the beginning?
Yes.
Would you say that level of fear was abnormal?
I don't know. I was pretty terrified anyway, but the fear I felt on the run-up to the choking was, unusual.
You know why? Because it wasn't you. It was me. I was inside your head, fighting with the mind.
There's another part to this story where we get to see the beginning of this psychic warfare program, which is started by a guy named Bill Django, which is played by who's it played by?
The dude.
The dude.
Jeff Bridges.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Bridges.
And
yeah.
it jumps back and forth in time between the original story, like how all this started, and then the current story, what's happening now.
Yeah.
What this is it's actually the closest thing it can be compared to is, I don't know if you guys remember a film from the late 80s or 1990 called Air America with Mel Gibson.
I remember it, but I didn't
and
see
Robert
it.
Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Where it was based on a book that of all these true tales and legends of the flyers of this illegal operation during Vietnam from the 50s on through the early 70s. And these are supposedly true stories all kind of boiled together and trying to tell a narrative out of them.
Yeah.
And how they do that is they jump back and forth in time
Yeah.
while we have this loose narrative of these guys going through the desert trying to find this place that Lynn Cassidy's on a mission to find.
Yeah.
That a vision has told him to go to. And I actually really like the film. I enjoyed it for the weirdness of it and for the just the fact that the movie opens up going with a line that says, "Trust us, the real story is much weirder than you're about to see."
Can I ask this? Because looking at the trailer, that's all I got to go by. It has like a little bit of a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas vibe to it.
Not really.
I didn't
not
really
really?
feel
No,
that.
not at all.
You know, here's the thing: is like I know actually a decent amount about where this stuff came from here, and you know the story that the Russians and the CIA and the FBI and pretty much the American government versus the Russian government during the Cold War were experimenting with anything that they even mildly heard the other guy was experimenting with, including psychic warfare, is absolutely true. We spent billions on psychics and trying to get people to like walk through walls and the dumbest shit you can imagine.
Sure.
We spent so much money on it, and all that shit was abandoned like decades ago because, oh, guess what? It didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, that's
true.
But that element is very much in this movie.
Yes.
In that the question is does Lynn Cassidy really possess powers, or is he kind of nuts and has
He's
just
nuts.
convinced himself?
He's in the movie. He's fucking
Yeah,
nuts.
I was gonna say there's no evidence that he even in the film that he's anything but nuts.
Well, but that's what the film is going through, and Ewan McGregor is trying to find out, is this guy legit or not? And you are you aren't, as the audience member, going, I wonder how true this is. You're watching him try to figure out how true this is within the context of the reality
You're
of the film.
watching Ewan McGregor, who is hit rock bottom in his life. He's desperate for something to grasp onto. He's desperate for something to believe in, as he says himself. And he's so desperate that he's willing at
believe
some
this
point to
bullshit.
believe this bullshit, even though even the movie acknowledges it's like, look, this is crap. This is shit. This doesn't work. You know, regularly, repeatedly through the film.
You don't even need to see like all the psychic shit that doesn't work. I mean, it's the shit that they even give them that's supposed to be practical because during the 80s, which was under like they tell you in the movies, it's well known that Reagan, especially like Nancy Reagan, was into like the stars and astrology and all that kind of shit. So
they hired Frankie to tell the country relax.
Yeah, don't do it. But they try to lead you to believe like, okay, Reagan bought into this bullshit so much that he's willing to fund a program that's headed by a guy who's turned into a hippie pretty much, who not only believes that, okay, I can teach these people to like travel with their minds and walk through walls, but we need to like be hippies and eat natural and sit around and do chants and sing kumbaya.
You can do all that stuff. You just have to take LSD first.
Well,
and there's a large part of that movie.
We have to dream a new America, an America that no longer has an exploitative view of natural resources, no longer promotes consumption at all cost. But to achieve this dream, we must become the first superpower to develop superpowers. We must create warrior monks, men and women who can fall in love with everyone, sense plant auras, pass through walls, stop saying mindless cliches, and see into the future. I want you to join me in this vision. Be all you can be.
And that's what's kind of interesting about this film, and what I liked about where it was going was all these guys that were in this program, this was the best time in their life. This was the time in their life where they got to experiment with drugs. They felt a part of something. They felt like they were doing something important. They felt like they themselves were important, and now the military has abandoned them.
Yeah, I know exactly what that
I
feels
was going to say, it's like spill.com.
No, it's like, you know, any number of kids who took lots of drugs and had a great time, and then suddenly, you know, I mean, the water washed back, and then, oh shit.
Because that's what it is.
dry.
It's like, I mean, I'm sorry, the guys in this platoon, they would have been fucked by these other guys, because these other guys get to like sit around and grow their hair out and wear all kind of chains and shit.
Oh, they
and
would've had their back
dance like
beat.
chicks. And then meanwhile, in the middle of this testosterone-driven, manly man type of regiment, and these guys would have been looking at them and be like, well, it's like prison. This would have done. This will do fine.
To be clear, on the level of reality, that didn't happen. There's no way the United States military during the Vietnam War let that happen.
No.
It just did not happen.
Yeah, they pretty much-
That's all imagination.
Because
on the part
because
of
if
the
there's
movie.
someone I trust when it comes to the military,
No, but if there's someone you should trust this comes to the paranormal and that sort of thing. It is me, actually. I spent a lot of time looking into that, and I know a lot about this
Yeah,
program.
Cyrus can actually
that
walk through
did
walls.
not actually happen. No, they looked into it. No, they did not hire a hippie to run their department for them.
Cyrus is floating right now.
Shit, yes. Yeah, but don't touch me.
completely different.
yeah, some fucking brownies you ate before you got it.
There's something wrong with those brownies?
He is looking at 6 of us right now.
No, it's so funny because it's so obvious that these people are full of shit. I mean, the dude, what's his name?
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff
Jeez.
Bridges. Tron. Excuse me, Tron. Okay, there you go. No,
Tron.
he's allowed to come back in to like supervise his program. He just walks up into the middle of the army base with a ponytail. He's wearing all kind of
shit
like
would never happen.
Indian shit. Yeah, somebody would look at him and be like, "Get that man off my fucking base right now!" But he comes in, he's teaching all these people pretty much to be hippies, and on top of that, he's giving them equipment that just does not work. I mean, this platoon would not survive. Like they're in the middle of the desert, and George Clooney's trying to heat up a meat patty with a solar powered cone, and by 6 o'clock that night, that meat is still fucking red. Yeah.
So basically, Bill Murray's troop from Stripes would have kicked their ass. Well, it has that George Clooney's Steven Soderbergh look. Is it from this particular studio?
Well, the problem with the movie is that they have a story that just needs a little more edge to it. The way they take it is that they make it too much of a soft comedy. I mean, it's
really?
this should be something. This should be something more like Three Kings.
Yeah.
But this is more. This is more like a sitcom. They right down to even the
It's more like Three Stooges.
no, not that bad. But it's more. I mean, everything is done to a point where you think they're about to cross over and make something really satirical or funny, and they pull back to just take the tone of cute.
Or even get really dark, like the scene in Three Kings where he's feeding the oil to Martin. What's his name? The guy from Boogie Nights.
The fuck are you doing?
Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
And you're like, this was really funny, but this is really dark and it's really telling. It's putting everything in perspective. And no moment like that ever happens here. It just skates around being
Well,
important.
it's Air America. It was made to be a mass marketed indie style comedy for mainstream America, and that's where it's one of those films that never decides, does it want to be weird, quirky, and indie, or does it want to be mainstream? And it never hits both, and it kind of straddles this very weird line.
No, this movie is really. They're in the middle of Iraq, and they give you violent situations, and you could tell where they softened it up just so they wouldn't have to like show any death or show anybody being killed, and even right down to like the score of the movie, they make it very cute. You know what? It was funny because during the beginning of the movie, I was with it for a matinee, but near the end, where it just kind of wrapped up a little bit too neatly, I give it a rental.
Yeah, it's not even that it's too neatly. It's just goddamn lazy because it has nothing to do with the context of the rest of the film. It's like, well, we better make it a happy ending for audiences. And it feels like a film that at one point during its development was kind of creative and innovative, if not exactly laugh out loud funny. And somebody meddled with it who shouldn't have. But it's still got so much neat material going on here. I mean, you don't see people discussing this stuff very often in this sort of tones that it's going to be a low matinee for me.
Okay.
I give it a matinee. I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny. It's not a great film. It really doesn't gel together. It's something that all the right elements are there, but it just never fully comes together as it should. But everything that's in there as comedy set pieces is pretty funny. There's some really great moments in this film, and there's really great characters. And I like the overall theme of what they're trying to say, but I think it probably needed to be tightened up. And I probably would have liked it kind of how you guys are talking about, where if it went a little darker and got a little edgier, I think that could have pushed it over the edge. But as it is right now, it's just a matinee.
I'm really disappointed to hear these last few comments because everything you guys said in the beginning made me think, like, I think I want to see this. But now you talk about it being soft and not dark. I'm like,
Lots of good ideas.
maybe it's not for me.
Really bad execution.
Yeah, no, that's it. And a lot of people gonna be misled. They think it's a romantic comedy, like somebody like staring at a goat over a romantic dinner over candlelight and shit. No, it is not that at all. So don't be fooled, people.
Hey,
Goatsy,
clearly,
I
you've
love
never
you.
been on a date with a goat. Because goats are very romantic.
I would beg to differ.
If anyone
Corey's been on a lot of dates.
yeah, if anyone has been on a date with goats, it's Corey. Yeah.
You know, it had to get mixed in somewhere. Wait a minute, you're a goat? Okay, sure.
Man, they're horny all the time.
I thought your webcam just was kind of fuzzy.
Lieutenant Colonel Django used funds from the project's black budget to procure prostitutes
That's a lie.
and to get drugs for himself and his men.
Well, the hooker thing is definitely a lie.